Does anyone remember the COVID-19 pandemic? Do you remember how nobody knew what to do or what was going on? Well, city council meetings were no exception. In today's meeting, we are revisiting a meeting from the Lake Worth Beach, Florida City Commission from March 19th, 2020, the very beginning of the pandemic. Federal and state of emergencies had been issued, and local city councils were struggling to figure out what would be appropriate. With tensions, fear, and misinformation spreading, this meeting was set to be full of emotions and political grandstanding. Let's watch.
Good evening, everyone. For all of those who are calling in on our telephone conferencing number, this is not a number to make comments. The blue cards online are to be used, and they will be monitored, so if we get them on time, your comments will be read into the record. Please make sure your phone has been muted, as the background noise will disturb the meeting. Thank you very much. Now, if you are here tonight and have filled out the blue cards and put them in the basket outside the chamber, your name will be called and you can come into the chamber and you may speak for 3 minutes on public participation of non-agended items and consent agenda items, and for 2 minutes on any agended item. I also want to, out of respect and concern for our citizens, our staff, and fellow commissioners who are here in the building, I'm going to follow a procedure which will hopefully minimize the coronavirus risk to all. First, each agenda item which will be voted on, I will take public comment first. After we receive public comment, I will then entertain a motion. After the motion is seconded, each commissioner will have a total of 5 minutes to speak on that item. Each commissioner will have one opportunity to speak. There will be no second bite of the apple. And after all 5 of us have had an opportunity to speak on the item, I will then ask the clerk to call for a vote on that motion.
Point of inquiry, point of information.
Yes?
That's not what's articulated in our rules and procedures. When did we suspend those?
It's a special meeting and it's a special circumstance.
I'm sorry.
So for special meetings, I don't know, City Attorney?
Madam Mayor, the rules that the commission has laid out do not specify a time frame for speaking. Robert's Rules of Order also do not specify a time frame for speaking, so it's within the chair's discretion to keep the meeting in an orderly procession and keep the meeting going quickly as possible to get us all out of here. It's within her discretion to make that call.
Hold on one second. So what you're saying is that the rules don't specify a time limit on speaking,
Correct.
but the chair can make up a time limit on speaking.
Correct.
So what other rules can the chair make up?
Rules that are not specifically addressed in your rules or in Robert's Rules of Order.
So she can make new rules
Right. And if
by herself.
if you don't agree with the chair's rules of how to orderly proceed the meeting, you can certainly appeal the decision of the chair.
So let me get this straight. If there is no specified rule, the chair can impose a rule. And if someone doesn't agree with that rule, they can appeal to the chair that made the rule. And if the chair doesn't change the rule, now there is a rule and the chair can enforce said rule. Well, that sounds like circular logic at best, and maybe a little dictatorship at worst.
That I guess what's the point of us having written and voted on rules if the chair can just change them by herself?
Madam Mayor, to clarify, she's not changing a rule. We don't have a specific rule on a time frame.
So is adding a rule changing the body of rules that exist? You just said she can make up a new rule about time limits.
She could fill gaps in the rules to keep the meeting proceeding in an orderly fashion. I think given the circumstances we're all under here, I think we all want to get out of here as quick as possible.
I don't think that that's the case. I think, some of us want to get business done, but I'm glad that that's on the record because I have never heard such a thing in my entire life. But I would ask, given that this is an important meeting, we're here to discuss emergency powers in an emergency, and other cities have held meetings just like this one. They did not impose these limits, and given the fact that also I requested such a meeting last week, and that we have lots of issues to cover, and given that I feel that the 5-minute limit on there has less to do with us trying to get out of here quickly and more to do with us not trying to explore these issues, I don't think it's a good idea to arbitrarily create a new rule that limits discussion to 5 minutes per commissioner when we've never done that before, when it's not in our rules, and when, in my opinion, that's not interpreting a rule, that's not filling a gap, that's creating a new rule altogether.
He's right. That is creating a new rule altogether. And if he doesn't like it, he can appeal to the chair who created the rule. Oh, wait.
I think there's a difference between interpretation and creation, or interpretation and legislation, and so I would ask that we not limit commissioner comments in probably the most important meeting we've ever had in our lives, perhaps the most important meeting this body has ever had, given the nature of this global pandemic, to 5 minutes per commissioner.
It actually isn't a reinvention of a rule. It's a 30-minute rule that we've had on the record, which is that goes to workshop. So it was just organized in 5-minute sections because after 30 minutes it would go to workshop. So to prevent that from happening, I was suggesting that we have the 5 minutes on that.
That is, well, you know, I just want to put on the record, I don't believe that we've been well advised in this matter.
Okay, thank you. All right, public participation. I'm sorry, Commissioner Robinson.
Well, under the consent agenda, I wanted to have an explanation of item A.
Okay, guys, buckle up. It's about to get real messy, figuratively speaking. It's about to be really apparent that they don't know what's going on. Let me break it down for you so you have some context as to what should happen next versus what is going to happen. Normally, an agenda for a city council meeting has 2 parts. In the case of this city, there is a consent agenda and a separate part for new business. The consent agenda are items that don't need any discussion, debate, or public participation. As such, they can be voted on all at once, and the meeting can proceed to new business. Very efficient. At every other city council I've ever seen, sometimes a city council member will, quote, pull an item from consent so that it can be discussed and voted separately. This is usually done by someone saying, I'd like to pull item A from consent. And the mayor says, cool, it's pulled from consent. However, that's not what is going to happen here. Let's watch.
I would also like to pull items B through I. Not consent on those items, therefore they must be pulled.
So is that a motion?
That's not a, we don't do motions on consent. There's not
so-
consent.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as amended. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay?
That-
Nay.
That's not, hold on one sec, that's not how the consent agenda works. The consent agenda is the stuff that the commission agrees on. It takes one commissioner to not agree on it to pull something from the consent agenda.
You have to agree on the consent agenda as amended, and there was a vote on that, and it just negative.
Well, it was my understanding that any commissioner could pull any item without
Consent,
a
yeah.
vote.
And that's what we've done before in the past.
We have
Madam Mayor,
numerously
if I
done.
may, according to your rules, if someone is to want to change the agenda as presented for the meeting, there is to be taken a vote on changing the agenda as set. Otherwise, you don't take a vote.
Well, my intention was not to change the agenda. It was just to get an explanation of item A. I'm not asking for, and I don't mean to be contrary or anything else.
So make another motion.
I wasn't making a motion. I wanted an explanation of.
You have to make a motion to have an explanation because you're moving something from consent agenda to an item. So you have to make a motion to move.
We've already voted.
Okay, well, just, you know, point of information, who wrote those procedures that we're operating under right now? Like where did those come, you know,
First
the
of all,
5-minute
I didn't
rule?
call your name, and there's no
Okay.
possibility of you talking to me. What is
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
this about? It's 30-minute rule.
But who wrote those procedures?
I wrote them.
You devised them yourself. You came up with them yourself.
It's first of all, you have no right to even interrogate me right now from the.
I think I know where they came from.
You don't.
Okay.
So, back to my.
We're going to go on. We're going to move on for public participation of non-agenda items and consent agenda items. And
So
those,
the public doesn't get an explanation of item A.
we can address that at a different time, but not right at this moment because it was voted down. We're
So in
moving
the
on.
future, we'll be voting for when somebody pulls in the future a consent agenda item. that will be voted on?
Every time?
We have done so in the past. We've had a vote to accept the agenda as amended every single time. Every meeting we've done it. Every meeting. If somebody makes an amendment, we vote on it every time. This is nothing new. So we'll take a brief break while we reorganize the consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, would it be appropriate to have a conversation?
Not at this point, we're just having a,
Okay.
thanks. There are no public participation of non-agenda items. Okay, recognizing that there are none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 3-2.
What did they just vote on? The consent agenda? Look, I've watched a lot of public meetings, and I mean a lot, probably more than is healthy. And this is the most confusing mess I've ever seen.
Moving on now to new business. City Attorney, did you want to? This item is resolution number 11-2020, Mayor's and City Managers' Emergency Powers.
It doesn't have to be.
Would you read it, please?
Resolution number 11-2020 of the City of Lake Worth Beach, Florida, providing that the mayor may declare a local state of emergency as needed, providing that the city manager may suspend, cancel, or reschedule non-essential public meetings and outside events and services, may limit access to non-essential city facilities and services, and may address other matters for efficient and safe operations of the city's business and for the health, safety, and welfare of the city's residents and the public at large during a federal, state, county, and/or local emergency, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Thank you very much. City Manager? Sure.
I'm sorry, is he going to be limited to 5 minutes as well?
Yeah.
Mayor and Commission, this resolution, as the title indicates, addresses a couple of issues that have become apparent and in question about the activities related to the declaration of emergencies as provided for the mayor, as well as my operational duties as the chief administrative officer for the city. This is a system that works. It's not a usurpation of any kind of authority. We're talking about operational issues, closing buildings, adopting certain personnel policies, waiving fines and fees that may be relevant, adjusting hours of operation. That's what this authorizes and formalizes and reaffirms
Thank you
to
very much.
address that issue.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson?
Well, I would certainly like to modify the time limits on the city manager's explanation. You know, this time thing is, I don't want, it's not.
You can ask questions and you can answer them.
Well, I'm not sure that he was finished explaining.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Do you want to ask him directly?
Well, I had some comments. I don't necessarily.
I have some questions.
Did you have something?
I would like to then reserve my right to speak without a question.
Did you have something? I'm sorry.
I have some questions. Mr. City Manager, you said the declaration doesn't deal with union contracts. Is it the case typically that emergency declarations differ based on the emergency?
The city's declaration is what I was referring to.
Right. What declaration are you referring to?
I'm referring to that, which is what is
Where does it
addressed in this
exist?
resolution. This declaration here that's enumerated,
That's not a declaration.
consistent with the city's past practice of having the mayor issue a declaration of emergency under this article.
Uh-huh.
It's affirming her ability to do that, as
Okay.
has been our practice
To issue a declaration.
for the city.
Right. Okay. But declarations themselves differ. Is that correct? In one emergency, I might issue a declaration that says one thing. In a different type of emergency, I might issue a declaration that says another thing. Does that tend to be the case depending on the emergency, that the declaration might differ?
Madam Mayor, and the attorney may want to clarify this further, but declaring it under this authority that's being talked about here for the city allows for responses within the organization that are more tailored to events that involve physical damage to the city environment.
The councilman is really making this a bigger deal than it has to be. This ordinance is just to reaffirm the mayor's ability to issue a declaration of emergency. That's it.
Hold on a second.
To address that in a meaningful way.
You keep referring to a declaration, and I'm trying to figure, where does a declaration exist right now? You see, there's no
We are
declaration in this
operating-
agenda. There's no
Let me-
declaration that I know that's been drafted at all. Is there a declaration that's been drafted for the mayor to sign?
No, there
Okay.
is not one, and this is clarifying based on your concerns that she doesn't have the right to do that. Under the second part of this resolution, it provides that, as we have been doing, and since a declaration of the city doesn't provide for any additional level of activities that's needed at this time, we are functioning under a state and national declaration, which is recognized by FEMA, for example, as a legitimate way for us to operate to respond to this pandemic, which is affecting people and not buildings.
Okay.
And this is a resolution reaffirming and clarifying that understanding, which you question doesn't exist.
Right. Okay.
And that's the difference.
Okay.
I know it's complicated.
No, it's not.
I wish it was a little better, but that's why a declaration for the city specifically has not been issued by the mayor.
Okay. So, like, there is no declaration.
No, of course there is no declaration. You're voting to reaffirm the mayor's ability to issue one.
There are just the state and federal declarations cover us.
We're going to get to that later. Okay. All right. And you said you needed flexibility to be able to respond to certain things because things are happening really quickly, and you can't wait to get direction from a body when things are happening that constitute an emergency. May I ask you, when did you receive correspondence from a commissioner asking for an emergency or special meeting?
I believe last Wednesday.
Okay. I think it was Thursday morning.
Okay, Thursday morning. I apologize.
Okay.
I actually got back from Washington Wednesday night.
So, and I sent you an email.
Yes, sir.
Asking for an emergency meeting to discuss these issues that you say, you can't wait for a body to wait on. Okay. So what did you tell me over the phone when we spoke? I believe it was Thursday afternoon.
I told you that.
Is this an inquisition? I mean,
I'm sorry.
This is interrogation.
You allowed me to ask questions. So
5 minutes.
I'm asking. No. You did not tell Miss Andrea to start the clock, and you did not say that Herman had 5 minutes to ask questions.
Continue with your dog
These
and
are-
pony show, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I
Excuse me. When we spoke on the phone in the afternoon, what did you tell me?
I'm running this meeting regardless of how much you want to talk
But
in between.
I
Feel
thought I
free
had
to.
the floor, Madam
You
Mayor.
do, but he was answering your question. So continue on and remember to conduct yourself with respect. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
in response, to the best of my recollection, I had just gotten back in town the night before from Washington, D.C. with Commissioner Amoroso, Vice Mayor, and was getting my footing, and we had a conversation about this, and I became agitated with the demand to have a public meeting to talk about issues that we had been already talking about and considering internally with staff, one, and two, understanding from my point of view, holding a public meeting with the CDC regulations and things coming down logistically while we were in the throes of ramping up our response to this pandemic was ill-advised.
Okay.
And I said this is not something we're going to do.
Okay. So I just want to note for the record, you did not mention any CDC guidance on the phone when we spoke.
I didn't mention a lot of things that was going on in the background.
You also mentioned over the phone that you thought it was a bad idea and that
Yes.
you would tell my colleagues as such,
I said I would run it by the colleagues. Yes.
and that you would tell them that you thought it was a
I gave them
bad
my
idea.
professional advice based on what I just.
Which was that it was a bad idea.
I said it was, given the things that are happening, to
Okay.
pull together a special meeting to have conversations for things that we're obviously already in the process of considering internally through our managing of this situation. And also, I did bring up the fact that rules from CDC on social distancing was making things difficult and more difficult for us to have. And you can look around the room. This is not an easy meeting, and it's actually ill-advised in some regards.
Okay. So would it be fair to say,
Whenever you hear a politician begin with, "Is it fair to say?" it usually isn't. That's a linguistic trick to make someone think they should side with whatever you are about to say. Remember, it's okay to say no, it's not fair to say.
so would it be fair to say that a commissioner asked to create an opportunity for this body to give you direction, okay, and that you didn't think that it was a good idea for the body to give you direction at that time? Is that fair to say?
I had conversations with each commissioners. This is a
Oh,
public
I'm
meeting.
sorry.
They can respond
Yeah.
for themselves.
Yeah, but no. I asked you. I said you were asked for a commissioner asked you to create an opportunity for the commission to give you
You had
direction.
a list of things you
and-
wanted to talk about.
Right, and you did not think it was a good idea for you to take direction from the commission, and the only way that it's legal for you to take direction from the commission, which is in public, in the sunshine, because that's, the deliberation of local government is to happen in public. But you can question that aside. You did not want to take that opportunity to take direction from the commission in public at that time. That was last Thursday. Would that be fair to say? You didn't want to create that opportunity to get direction from the commission at that time on Thursday when we spoke.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I think that's a mischaracterization of my intent. I didn't think it was a good idea, given the heat of battle at the time.
So you didn't want to have
the
a meeting.
logistics to have a meeting, which, in effect, if you go back and retrospectively look at the issues, if you had the meeting and made decisions, they would have been probably decisions we would have had to readjust because of the fact circumstances keep changing from day to day. And secondly, I fully believed at that time as well, Commissioner, that as this is reaffirming, it was well within my authority to address those issues in the processes that we were currently involved in. And so you might have perceived that as I don't value or was trying to disrespect.
Hold on one second.
That's not the case.
I didn't mention that at all.
I
didn't mention that at all.
I believe I had the authorities already
Okay.
to address those issues.
Okay.
And honestly, the topics you brought up as part of what we were already
Paid
considering
leave for
are not
employees.
bad, are not
One
bad,
at a time, please.
are not bad issues. And they're not things that I think that all of us aren't concerned about. But the ability to implement, process, deal with a special public meeting and all that's going on, and then figure out social distancing and how to do this, and then to do it on a running basis, I thought was ill-advised.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
So you didn't want to have a meeting last week, and you had an opportunity to have a meeting, and at that meeting you could have taken direction from the body, and you didn't. Okay. So I've got another question. Actually, this is for Ms.
Point of information.
Sure.
Point of information. We were asked about having a meeting, so he did not take direction from the committee, from the commission. You just said
I
it.
didn't- hold on.
One at a
Excuse me.
time, please. It's my floor. Thank you. What you just said was that this commission asked and directed him to have a meeting, and he didn't want to have a meeting. We did not. He polled us each individually, and I purposely said I did not want to have a meeting. It's a danger with my health, with where I am, with the international scenes that are going on right now. It is disingenuous to have a public meeting at this point. And I'd like to ask a question while I'm asking.
I'm
It's a
sorry.
point.
I have
It's a
the
point of information. The point of information is, did we have a public meeting to discuss how we were going to handle Hurricane Dorian? Did we call a special emergency meeting to handle? Did we have that? No, we didn't. Also, is it a violation of sunshine to air your opinions and things on social media when we're not supposed to talk to one another, but isn't airing it publicly in an area? Is that a violation because they're talking about items that are going to be discussed at a public meeting?
For those of you non-Floridians out there watching this, when they mention the Sunshine or the Sunshine Law, it's basically Florida's Open Meetings Act.
Point of information. Isn't conversation between commissioners what's disallowed by the Sunshine Law? So for example, I can say something in a room, I can give a speech. And if a commissioner is present, that's not a violation of sunshine law. It would be a violation if the commissioner and I were to go back and forth.
No.
I'm sorry, I asked the attorney. Is it a violation to say in public things that pertain to the city? Because that's what she's saying.
Oh man, I forgot about when we used to wipe down microphones during COVID, and everyone's laughing because they know how ridiculous this really is.
Madam Mayor, Commissioner Hardy, you're correct that the
Thank you.
sunshine law involves a discussion between 2 or more commissioners about a matter that will foreseeably come before the commission for consideration.
Correct. So I can, and for example, I've been in the room with the mayor when she has given speeches at neighborhood associations about city matters.
But they were
And
publicly,
excuse me,
they were
I'm
publicly
sorry.
noticed.
I'm sorry. And that wasn't considered a sunshine violation either.
Point of
So,
information, they were publicly noticed. That's the difference.
Actually, that meeting at college, well, we won't go there. Madam Attorney, I have a question for you. I asked you how from that do we draw the conclusion that the mayor can declare a state of emergency? It's saying here that she'll be recognized as the head of government in an emergency. But what you're holding is that the mayor, not only once we get an emergency that she's the head of government, but that she gets to decide what an emergency is.
And in my response to you, what I tried to clarify was that historically, even before we became the city attorney, that the use of the mayor to issue his or her own declaration was something that was in practice and has been in practice for a while. As to how the original interpretation of that language led to that declaration be done by the mayor himself or herself, I can't answer that question. But as the manager mentioned, based on past practice, and that nobody has ever questioned the mayor's authority to make that declaration, that has been the continued practice of the organization.
Okay, so you said that in the response that you sent me, but you also said something else. In the very first sentence, you said the city's charter and code do not provide any specific guidance on how, when, or by whom a state of emergency is declared for the city.
Correct.
Okay. And so the answer that you gave me didn't answer the question that I asked. I asked a question about the interpretation of the charter. I did not ask a question about the history of that provision in the charter's use. You answered the question with an answer about its history. You didn't tell me, you didn't connect that to the language in the charter.
She answered your question. She can explain it. She can't make you understand it.
So I'm asking, how does the language in the charter vindicate that practice? Because it's possible that people can do things, whether it's proper or not. So just because, it's like saying Jeffrey Dahmer, he might have killed 20 people.
Point of order.
I'm sorry.
Point of order.
It's an analogy. It's like saying
inappropriate.
someone can rob 10 stores and it was wrong the first time, but by the time you get to the 10th, it's okay because it's a practice.
Please.
So please tell me how the language in the charter vindicates the practice.
Madam Mayor.
Please.
And what my first sentence to you, in my opinion, was to explain is that there's no other language in our charter or code that addresses a declaration of emergency.
This doesn't address a declaration of emergency either.
And we have discussed that at length, but what the interpretation is then based on is that there's no other language in the charter or code regarding a declaration of city emergency. So historically, they've relied on this language that I have agreed with you is not clear, but they have historically relied on that language for the mayor to be able to issue the declaration. So the interpretation that I'm providing to you is based on the fact that there's nothing else in the charter or in the code, and I'm looking at it from a historical basis that this is what the city has done.
Okay, so you said something in your response. You said there's no other language dealing with declarations of emergency in the charter or in the code. I didn't see. I read, the word declaration didn't appear one time. There's no language in here about how we recognize as an institution that an emergency is on us.
I don't disagree with you on
Okay.
that. I don't
So-
disagree with you.
so-
You asked me what my opinion was
Okay.
based on
Right.
the interpretation of that provision, and
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to provide you what that interpretation is.
So right, but I guess I'm getting at is that it appears you didn't interpret the text. You just told me what people have done, and you basically said, well, they've done it, so we're going to do it. And in the resolution, you use the word reaffirm. You said this, whereas the city of Lake Worth Beach desires to reaffirm the mayor's authority to issue a local state of emergency. And again, I'm just going to ask you, where was that affirmed in the first place?
Through history.
It was done.
Through history, before me. This is not something I invented.
So what you're saying is that because someone does something, once they do it, if no one asks any questions, it's therefore proper for them to do it?
To be fair, that is a legitimate question. Saying just because we've always done it doesn't necessarily make something right.
I think in the interpretation, you have to look at the past practice and precedent of the city.
Okay,
That's
Madam
what
Attorney,
happened
was
here.
this practice subjected to any review, for example, judicial review? I mean, like, it would be different if like a judge looked at this practice and said, yeah, this is legit, but this hasn't been subject to any review whatsoever.
I don't think anyone's ever brought it up,
Right.
except for now. And I know that in other cities' charters and code, they have very specific provisions.
Right.
And it could certainly be your, prerogative now to move forward with an ordinance that further clarifies this. It's just never come up as an issue as long as we've been city attorney.
Right. So, and so I'm wondering, given that you stated here, the city's charter and code do not provide any specific guidance on how, when, or by whom a state of emergency is declared by the city, it looks like in the absence of anything specific, you're creating a right for a member of the commission to do something that the charter does not say. The charter says, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, but it does not say that she can do this. It doesn't even mention the word declare. It doesn't mention the word issue. So from a meaningless ink blot, which is what you appear to recognize it as, you're creating, it would appear, a right that isn't mentioned in the charter and giving it to the mayor.
Commissioner Hardy, we did not create the history
I
behind.
didn't say you created the history, but what you're saying here is that it's been affirmed and we're reaffirming it. But again,
If this commission does not want to reaffirm the mayor's ability or even affirm the mayor's ability to issue the declaration, then that's the commission's desire to do that tonight. And that's why that's in the resolution.
what does the commission's desire have to do with the meaning of the words in the charter?
It has everything to do with the words of the charter. You're the city council. You can change the charter as you please.
This, I'm gonna
Oh,
give
one
ev-
second.
I don't think you can. No, this isn't
No,
your meeting.
No, well, Madam Mayor,
This isn't your meeting.
you did some things before the meeting without telling us before we got here
But you're taking advantage of.
to limit the discussion. And
So now you're usurping the whole meeting.
well, you said I have a right to question. And so I'm
But you've
asking a
gone-
question.
you've gone
One last
way
question.
past the amount of
Ms. Godot, are you
It's the
board
last one.
certified in city, local, county government law? Okay, thank you.
Can I get a wipe down?
Another wipe down of the microphone reminds me of this legendary clip.
Defense of the attorneys. We've had 4 of them interrogated and questioned on the same repetitive questions, both on your abilities and my abilities as it pertains to the charter. I think it's been enumerated here tonight adequately by Commissioner.
Point of information, did I interrogate 4 of
Could
our
you please
attorneys?
let him?
There's probably 10 hours of time during this very difficult period when everybody is expending a lot of time, effort, and energy trying to address this pandemic to deal with this college level debate over what the charter has and whether it's legal or not, or the actions that have taken place throughout history. And questioning the attorney on this topic has taken a lot of time, effort, and energy and cost unnecessarily, in my opinion. But more importantly, at the crux of this, and I tried to get to it in my opening statements about what this resolution does, there is a fundamental disagreement over the legal interpretation of the charter, and that past practice has any relevance going forward, and that this resolution is, in an opinion, clearly stated, not appropriate. That's not something that the attorney says is either right or wrong, but can be remedied through the adoption of this resolution. And I think the attorneys, when they brought forward this idea of doing a resolution to reaffirm what we have been doing, grant you the authority to move forward and fill those gaps that have existed in the charter that doesn't specifically enumerate every little detail about every little thing that this organization does and doesn't do. And in this case, these are very important ones at a very stressful time, to resolve it through this resolution. So I want to stand in the defense of the attorneys on their opinion and what they have said up to this point. I'm not an attorney. I don't pretend to try to practice law, but I do take the advice of the attorney, and I would encourage you to do the same.
I do want to make some decisions tonight, rather than it isn't a college debate. It isn't a dog and pony show. These are important topics.
City Manager, I'm sorry. Could you state all the different things that we've done since in dealing with things that we've created to try to work with the community in reference to different things and policies?
There's been a myriad of things because we are in an emergency mode, and we are functioning under the declarations that were issued by the federal and state government. What you're not seeing a whole lot about right now is operationally, and as a city, we are first and foremost charged with core responsibilities to provide clean water, sewer services, electric utilities, emergency permitting processes, and the removal of debris and trash. Those things are fundamentally and vitally important if we're seeing people quarantined to their homes and restricted in travel. They have to be home and they have to be able to function. Issues of, and we've had a lively debate about when and how we do the disconnects, and that process yesterday, Wednesday, moving forward for a period of time, has been discontinued. There are no utility cutoffs.
Okay, everyone, buckle up. This is vitally important. The city manager just said there are no utility cutoffs.
There are no utility cutoffs.
Here is where the tensions flare. Pay close attention, because this is the difference between fighting for your constituents and political grandstanding. Which is it? You be the judge.
And that's something that this organization was mirroring what was happening in the market around us. There was the conversations I had with each of you about this topic. And there was differences of opinions I won't go into. Y'all can talk about that. But we all have come together to address, to ease people's minds, that we're not going to turn off your utilities through this period of time, because that would be unconscionable. And those kinds of activities.
Point of information. Did people get their utilities turned off on Monday?
Let me finish.
Continue, please.
Let me finish.
Did people get their utilities turned off this week? I asked for a point of information. That's a non-debatable motion, and I'm asking for the information. Did you turn off people's utilities
Point of
this
order.
week?
Yes, and you know
Point
the
of
answer
order.
to that.
Okay, the answer is yes.
On
Okay.
Tuesday,
And the policy wasn't in place.
and the policy wasn't in place then because we had not.
Because you didn't want to have a meeting to discuss
Please.
the policy the previous
There was-
week.
We were,
Like, seriously? Like, you're letting this guy stand here and lie to the public.
excuse me, point of order. Point of order, point of order, point of order. I'm going to move on.
Reached the
I don't,
tipping point with
I don't want you guys to go back and forth at all. I just want to say, for the record here, and I want to read these people. So again, there is no power that's going to be shut off.
So which is it? Did anyone have their power cut off or not? Here's the city manager to explain.
As of Wednesday, we suspended utility cutoffs. On Monday and Tuesday, there was a total of 53 accounts that were disconnected. The people that called in, which was the majority of the units, let's be honest, that were occupied, called in, paid what was due, and were reconnected the same day.
The city noticed 9 residents did not reach out to them, so
They went and we actually hunted them down. And we found out that all those properties were vacant. People had already either skipped out, and that there were 4 accounts of people who had actually were staying at another place.
So, you're telling me before a policy was put in place, less than 50 accounts were cut off, but reinstated the same day, and the ones that weren't turned back on the same day were vacant. So, this isn't a big deal. But let's see if someone makes it a big deal.
Going through this paperwork, going through this process as we start to discover things that we like or don't like in reference to it. And I appreciate your charter challenges and things of that. I didn't make these rules, and I'm certainly not sitting here, wishing to even be at the center of this discussion or have you assert these lies towards me. But in addition to that, they never came up with a different approach for each different kind. They never anticipated a pandemic. They never anticipated a whatever. There's only one approach, and it involves calling into action your police, calling into action your fire, calling into action employees in special circumstances to create public safety measures and get the power back on and do all kinds of things of that nature. It was not addressing something such as a pandemic. It was not addressing anything like that from what I had read through it. And it would change the circumstances and severely affect the budget of this city in declaring a state of emergency, in my personal
Point
opinion.
of information, what did you read through, Madam Mayor?
Why is it questionable?
First of all,
No,
I'm not even.
You were saying that something didn't address these issues that you're talking about. What was the something that you
The Declaration of Emergencies.
What declaration of emergency? Like there's no declaration of emergency.
Declarations of, yes, there is a declaration of emergency.
Right now, here?
No, we have not called a declaration. In the past, when we call a declaration of
about
emergency,
previous declarations.
previous declaration.
Previous emergency.
I'm not going back and forth with you. That's not how we run a meeting, and you know Robert's rules. Enough. Enough.
I've had enough of everyone.
Well, you know what? You are completely. You want your own rules. You want your own things. You want your own questions. You want to change the books. You want to change that. You know what? Put an agenda. Put an agenda item. It's
and
mine.
you announced it on the dais, and you changed them unilaterally, even though our rules don't give you the ability to do that.
I was giving you an opportunity. Goodness gracious! Should I ever give you an opening again? I'm sure you will take advantage of the situation completely. In the meantime, I'm going to go to public comments because this is just completely out of control.
I'm going to edit these public comments out, but I will say these are the most well thought out, balanced, and articulate comments I believe I've ever heard in a public meeting. Regardless of the opinions you hold regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, these were some good comments. If you're interested, as always, I've put the link to the original meeting in the description below.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'm sorry.
So moved.
I'm sorry.
Second.
Oh, okay.
And the motion is?
Motion to approve.
Approve the resolution.
Do we want to make any specifics?
My
Before we go, I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
I've got a motion on the floor and a second. Okay. City manager, question. What happens when we declare a state of emergency?
It would complicate some of our contract agreements that we have, as I understand it, with the unions and how we deal with some of the pay issues potentially. And at this point in time, it really wouldn't add any value to what we're already doing, other than to say the city issued a state of emergency. And I would refer to the, is Juan listening out there too? Or if the city attorney has any additional
point of
point
information.
to do that, but
What is the word? You said it will complicate our situation with contracts and with the unions. Can you clarify? You said complicate. What does that mean?
there's verbiage that says when the city issues a declaration of emergency, certain things happen.
Which
And
is?
I'd have to, it's mentioned in our union contracts and the
You'd
various
have to
things.
pay them more.
That's
right?
a potential downside to it, yes. And how we address all those issues related to that can be handled under the direct declarations of emergency as issued by the federal and state governments. The two are different.
Point of information.
The intention of the two are different, and the desire just to have the title that the city has declared a state of emergency doesn't add anything to what we're already capable of doing and are doing and have been doing. And that's the point.
Point of information. You said it was intended because the employees would have to do things like clear debris and all this stuff and, you know, make sure the place is safe. Is it not also intended to compensate them for the fact that they're working in a potentially dangerous environment in an emergency?
Danger is defined under the way we use declarations of emergency is more in line with activities related to physical damage in the work environment.
Point of information.
This differentiates the city from other cities.
Is the coronavirus not dangerous?
I'm not arguing that point, Commissioner. I'm giving you the answer. I know you don't like the answer and you want to argue with me on it.
Okay.
I have stated this 3 times the same thing. It is what and how we operate.
Okay.
Mayor, I hope that answers your question adequately.
Vice Mayor.
I just wanted to give my 2 cents. So first, I want to thank the residents for being involved and self-quarantining. And, you know, it's unique to us and it's something we haven't seen. So can we do better? There's always things that pop up that we can do better on. And I call the question.
I'm sorry. That's not how this works. We each have an opportunity to speak 5 minutes.
I thought we did.
Yeah, the question's been
I'm
called.
sorry. No, I'm sorry.
We've been
City
And
talking.
that's not how calling the question works. You need a second and you need to vote on
Then
it.
I have a second.
Wrong. You don't need a second on calling the question. Calling the question ceases all discussion and requires a vote to be taken immediately on the motion on the floor. In this case, on the resolution.
Second for calling
So
the
are you
question.
telling me that you're going to keep me from talking right now?
You've talked all evening.
Look here. You're calling me disrespectful because I've interrupted people, but this gentleman has turned off people's lights in the middle of a global health pandemic.
And we're reconnected the same day.
That's what that gentleman did.
Point
Point of order.
And you think I'm disrespectful for interrupting you?
Point of order.
This gentleman has
Point
had the
of
ability to do
order.
any number of things.
Point
We
of
could have
order.
banned large gatherings. We could have closed the beach. We could have put a moratorium on
I recessed the
utility
meeting.
shutoffs.
I recessed the
Also not within your power, and the
recessed the
attorney has
meeting.
held that that's true.
I recessed the meeting.
You came up with new rules at the beginning of the meeting, and then you didn't even want to follow the rules that you came up with.
And you took advantage.
This is a banana republic is what you're turning this place into with your so-called leadership.
Does a recess mean that we will be?
Yes.
Camera on that?
I don't
You
care
got a- you
anything
got a
about
camera
this.
on that?
I don't care anything about this.
Does
We
it-
should have been talking about this last week.
Can
We
we?
cut off people's utilities this week and made them pay what could have been their last check to us to turn their lights on in a global health pandemic.
Called in, paid what was due, and we're reconnected the same day.
But you don't care about that and you didn't want to meet. But every other year you go around and beg people for their votes.
Hey.
Can we explain
But
the
you care
recess?
more about your relationship with that guy than you care about the relationship with the people who don't go to work in this building.
Order! You were done. You're done. You're done. Disrespect.
It's disrespectful is what you've done to the working people in this city.
I didn't do anything.
You failed to act.
I didn't do anything.
When you're a leader, you failed to act. You said you didn't do anything. You failed to act when you had an opportunity.
Party for State House.
And spoiler alert, this political grandstanding actually worked. Later in 2020, he was elected to the Florida House of Representatives.
I don't care anything about that. You think anybody cares?
Does a recess mean that we can reconvene tonight, or? Okay. Is that in 5 minutes, or?
It's when the chair comes back.
It's 7:52. We're live.
Okay, we were going to rejoin our special city meeting. The question was called before we recessed, but I also noting my rules at the beginning, I had said that everyone had 5 minutes to talk. Some people were given more than 5 minutes to talk, but I know that the Vice Mayor Pro Tem is the only person who wasn't given any time whatsoever to speak. So we have a question being called on the floor. Did you want to speak just because I had omitted your chance to have your 5 minutes?
So I just can just speak about what I need to
For
speak?
5 minutes.
Okay. All right.
Any version of Robert's Rules of Order states that if a question is called, it's an immediate vote on the motion. However, I've also never heard that anyone only gets 5 minutes to speak, so who really cares, right?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't going to comment tonight. I thought that our business here tonight was pretty straightforward. I thought our business tonight was probably unnecessary. You know, I have the distinct pleasure, if you will, of having been here through a number of hurricane seasons. Probably, I don't know, 12 or 13, I'm not sure how many. But I also have the pleasure of having served here during 9/11.
I think 9/11 was bad.
Okay, and I got to tell you folks, we're doing the relationship between the city manager and his duties, or her duties, and this body as a policymaker has not deviated one bit in all these years. You know, the debate over whether or not we should have a city emergency or not a city emergency, I think, is moot. But for the record, in 2017, I did a little research we call the city emergency, and nobody challenged in 2017
You didn't notify us.
the powers of the city manager.
Quiet, please.
And nobody challenged the powers of the mayor. I think that
Beer should be cold and boots should be dusty.
we do live in a very different time. And yes, this pandemic is extremely serious, and none of us should take it lightly on any level. And that is, once an emergency is declared, okay, there is a distinct chain of command. And those of us who are elected officials, unless we are certified to be part of that chain of command, do not interfere unless it's a policy decision that has to be crafted. I think it's, and I'm just going to say it, I really didn't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. I think that in a time where we need calm in our community, a time where we need good, effective, straightforward communication, we're sitting here debating on the definition of our charter. We are causing confusion amongst some of our residents who are questioning, well, gee, are they really doing things the way they're supposed to be doing? Well, of course we are. We are absolutely doing what we're supposed to be doing. You're causing confusion. You're causing division in the community, okay, in a time of emergency. And I can't find anything more egregious than that. I think that whatever situation that may exist between the city manager and any one of the 5 of us up here should be dealt with, you know, on a one-on-one basis and not
In the newspaper?
not in the newspaper, thank you very much,
One at a time, please.
and not on Channel 5 or 12 or anything else. I think it's important that the city residents understand that they're in very, very good hands right now. We have a competent team of professionals at all levels that are making the best possible decisions on an hour-by-hour basis, okay? And I have no reason to suspect or question at this point any of the decisions that are being made. We are certainly concerned about the health, safety, and well-being of every one of our residents. The issue of utilities being turned off. This health emergency notwithstanding, there's always been an opportunity for folks who've had their utilities turned off to work things out. And there are agencies and/or things that we can work through administratively. And if with all due respect, I'm going to take a little bit extra time because I think there's been extra time afforded to others.
Small.
Small what? Don't say small. I think that, you know, things have been happening so rapidly to stand up here and suggest that we've turned people's electric off.
We have.
In a cold and callous manner, and I'll expect you to remain silent as I remained silent while you spoke.
You remained silent on Thursday,
please,
too.
please.
So to reiterate, I didn't have any intentions of commenting tonight because this is a sensitive subject for some people, and it's an inflammatory subject that's intentionally being, you know, whipped up in some parts of our city. I just want to reiterate, again, I've had the benefit and the honor of serving this community through many hurricanes and 9/11.
Was bad.
Okay, and every emergency is a little bit different than the previous one, but I'm perfectly comfortable with what we're doing right now, and we will adapt. And we will make the best possible decisions we need to make going forward. No one's utilities are going to be turned off. That's already been stated. Okay, that's already been stated. And as far as red tagging and the other things that your friends and constituents wrote in about this evening, all these things, there are probably thousands of things that this administration has to think about policy-wise, procedural-wise, that they have to get to. And there's only 24 hours in a day. But I think we're in very good shape, and I thank the city manager and his staff, and I thank my colleagues up here for their leadership.
We've got a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4-1.
We've made a joke of our.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second, first, Vice Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by
Council
the Vice
seated.
Mayor. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 We're done.
Good night, everybody.
And there you have it, folks. If you liked this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.